my wizards, Dev, SBMTG, place down there, you know, do magic stuff on YouTube. Usually we have decks, and I am right in the middle of making a bunch of decks without cons or Fate Reforged in them. There's a lot of rotation talk going on right now. With that in mind, we're going to take a day or two out of the schedule to sort of talk about the format that was in the last couple of years and the stuff we're losing and celebrate some things and mourn some other things. And today, a video about mourning, to be honest with you. I know it's going to be a little sad for some people, but I'm going to talk about 10 cards that I really am sort of sad never really made it, never really had a big place in this standard, even despite all the potential that they had. A lot of these are pet cards for people, you know, things that some people have played but just never really saw the limelight like they really deserve to in some cases, especially the top 3 or 4 cards. I really feel like they had a place in Standard. They just never really evolved. So let's start with an honorable mention. Gotta have an honorable mention. This is a pet card of mine, and I know a lot of people like this card. This is High Sentinels of Arishan, and I just like it. I mean, it sustains itself, putting counters on creatures and getting bigger as it goes. It's a 4-mana, 3/4 flyer. It's not a terrible deal in and of itself, and it works really well with cards like Hangerback Walker and Abzan Charm, Jamoka's Command, you know. So I just don't know why it never really saw action, probably because Siege Rhino is just a much, much better 4-drop, and you play that. In the Abzan deck that runs Charm and Command and stuff, Hangerback Walker. So it just, you know, it just was outclassed by better 4-drops, I guess. But I really liked this card in budget decks. It was good in the Outlast mechanic. It was good with the Bolster mechanic. It was, I mean, it's fine with a lot of like budget things, and it's a solid card, and I'm gonna miss it, is all. Let's start the list in earnest here. The list proper, number 10, and this is another pet card, but not for me. This is for a lot of people other than me that I keep seeing talk about this card on Tapped Out and in the comments of my own videos and other YouTube videos. This is Mardu Strike Leader, a card that never quite was a real thing, but a lot of people swear by, especially people that made the Dash deck. People that make Black-White Warriors often include 2 to 4 copies of this, and I can see why. I've played with the card more than once, and it is a really good card. You know, extra value is always nice, and Dash is just something that we're all going to miss. Dash dodges sorcery speed removal and mass removal. It's something that it's going to have a hard time filling that void, and there were more than one card in the format that helped. As far as Dash went, there were cards that actually saw play. Strike Leader just never quite made it, and I know it's really a boss at the F&M level, and a lot of people like it. I just wish it would have transcended into the realm of like big league Magic. My number 9 is Clever Impersonator, the first card that I really feel like just absolutely should have done something in the format. Especially in the last 6 months here, we see a lot of people playing Planeswalkers. We see that enchantments have taken a step up as far as how important they are. A lot of decks play, you know, important enchantments. So Clever Impersonator can be any permanent. That's pretty stupid for just a 4 mana. I mean, why don't people like this card? The Clever Impersonator still looks really good to me. I mean, it's no like control magic or anything. Just having that for, you know, 2 and 2 blue would have been way better. But Clever Impersonator is just so freaking neat, and there's so many cool things that you could copy in the format that why not? We really missed the boat on Clever Impersonator. It's a mythic for a reason, I think. It just never really reached its potential. Number 8 is a card that actually did see a very, very fringe amount of play when Theros was still in the format. But, I mean, it's extremely fringe, and hasn't seen any play since then. Number 9 is Soul Flare, which I still think there are some pieces in the format to make this work. And although I haven't really done much to help make Soul Flare work, you know, we've made a couple of Soul Flare decks, and those were back during Theros days, the interest in the card has really dropped off. But it's still a really good card. Often you can play this as a 2/2, as a 4/4 like flyer for 2 mana. You know, sometimes a flying Death Touch 2 mana 4/4. That seems pretty darn good to me, and it's fairly decent in mono black aggro shells, although there are some cards that overshadow it. But I just don't know why Soul Flare, like, more people didn't try to make that work. It was in the Chromanticore deck back when Theros was still in, and Chromanticore was a tier 3, really like tier 2.5 kind of deck that really, you know, would top 8 every now and again. It was a really fun deck, really interesting, neat deck. We just really didn't see the exposure it should have. And Soul Flare, ever since that deck has rotated, has just completely fallen by the wayside, and it's still a really interesting card. Number 7 is, I really hate that this never saw play. Every time I play this card, it's really, really good. Number 7 is Reality Shift, and I know a lot of people agree because I just saw it in the comments the other day when I included Reality Shift in a deck, that people were like, yes, Reality Shift! Why doesn't this see play? It's been, you know, a year and a half now the card's been in the format. has not seemed like any play, like at all. You know, it's popped up in a couple of sideboards as a 2-of. Aside from that, nothing. Like, people just refuse to even try to play this card. Although, I would imagine that pros have probably tried this card and brewed with it. It just hasn't worked out. Well, every time I try to play it, and I play every deck that I make, I play against 4 top-tier decks. It gets a few matches against 4 top-tier decks that I've chosen as sort of representative of the format at that time. So I've played this card against real decks, and it's always a good card. I don't care. They get to manifest the top card of the library. I don't even care if it's a creature, and they get to flip it up. You know, 9 times out of 10, I'm just exiling forever the most important thing on their side of the board, and it's often, in a lot of cases, a hangerback walker that they don't get tokens out of because they just exiled it. So, you know, just Reality Shift has been fantastic, especially considering it's a blue card. Blue should be able to just exile creatures. Again, I really had this pegged as one of those $5 uncommons when Favorite Forge first came out, but just never any action. Why? Explain yourself. Number 6 is one that a lot of people are going to be really sad to see go. Mostly brewers and budget players, but I know a lot of people swear by Alicia, who smiles at death. We also lose the coolest name for a card in the format. Alicia, who smiles at death, that's the coolest name ever. So why didn't Alicia ever really become a thing? Well, hold on. You'd see her occasionally in the Mardu Warriors decks, but those were never really a thing. And sometimes you'd see her in Black-White Warriors deck that splash red specifically to play this card, and then like 2 other cards in the sideboard. But mostly, Alicia just really didn't see hardly any play. There weren't a lot of just fantastic targets for her in the format. There were some really good ones, but not anything just completely game-breaking, which I feel like Wizards probably did on purpose. But Alicia could have just been a much better card under different circumstances, and I don't know why she's not played more in Modern. She does see occasional play, but even there, she's just really, really fringe, you know, just not in the mainstream of the cards that are played. And she's got a lot of really good targets in Modern, but even in Standard, where, you know, it's sort of a format more meant for something like this, just never really made waves, and that sucks. Alicia had a lot of people on her side that wanted her to work, and it just never did. Number 5 is where we get into some stuff that, like, I really cannot understand at all why this wasn't a thing. Number 5 is Shaman of the Great Hunt, and yes, I know it occasionally pops up as a 2-of in certain decks, but not often. And Teamer was never really a thing in the format. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I feel really bad for Teamer because it had cards like this, and this isn't even a strictly Teamer card. It could show up in Izzet decks, it could show up in green-red decks, you know, and it just wasn't a thing. And there, again, is a case of there being other good 4-drops, you know, and even the ramp deck, you know, or just the mid-range decks that look like they should play this card have better options, which sounds crazy because the card is freaking ridiculous looking. Maybe 2 toughness? 2 toughness is probably a huge reason why I didn't see play, but I just, everything on the card except for 2 toughness makes for a bomb card. So, and I know a lot of people in the comments are probably going to be like, Shaman of the Great Hunt, really, really good. I play this card all the time, but just really didn't see mainstream Standard play, and it's such an amazing card. I don't know why. Number 4 is Segun Mauler. Segun Mauler, again, lots and lots of fans of this card. And hexproof is often a prerequisite to Standard playability. So I really don't know why this was never a thing. And I wish I had more to say about it. There'd be more to say about it if it had ever seen play, but I don't know that it ever really did. Again, Teamer, just not really an important deck in the format. Simic Morphers wanted to be a thing with Ice Feather Aven. That was a good card too. Just never really was. So same thing goes with Segun Mauler. A huge hexproof dude is usually very playable, but I guess just not the right circumstances this time. I mean, obviously the card's good, right? I mean, we can all agree that card looks really, really good, but for whatever reason, unplayable. I don't know why. Number 3 is a card that also just barely saw play, but I know a card that a lot of people swear by, and myself included in this case. Number 3 is Flamewake Phoenix, and this card is amazing. Just recursive, it's always on the battlefield. We've got plenty of things in the format, especially in Dragons, that allow us to play this over and over and over and always have a 2-power flyer attacking on our side of the board. That's really, really amazing. It's better than you might think it is. The fact that this is just always there. It's so easy to make it come back, you know. And this does see some play in Black-Red Dragons decks, but not often anymore. Those decks have shifted more towards the aggro variant. Still seems like a viable option as far as I'm concerned, especially in heavy red decks that want to attack a lot. The card is just a very reliable, dependable beater that's always there and will do a lot of damage over the course of the game for you. Number 2, as we round the corner on this video here, is Butcher of the Hort, which I know saw, again, occasional play mostly when Theros was in the format, but now we see that the sacrifice-based decks that might want to play this are not in these colors. You know, you see the rally deck And the Rally deck doesn't even play this all the time. And it wanted to at the beginning, but you don't see it too often in the deck anymore. It's just way too overpriced for decks like that. That is the ostensible reason for not playing this card. But at the top end of a lot of Mardu, curves, this card is absolutely phenomenal. It's been an amazing finisher for me every time I've played it, and I've played Mardu a lot. This card has always been an extremely potent finisher every single time. If you get it to resolve, it's going to win you the game like 80-something% of the time. It's very, very reliable. The fact that we can give it lifelink is ridiculous. Even if it gets blocked, we're going to gain 5 off of it. Like, that's come on, guys. Like, just everything about the card. A 4-mana, 5-power dude with the ability to have a bunch of different abilities and stuff like this. Why isn't this really, really important? Like, I feel like this card could be $10 right now, and it's like 50 cents. Explain that. But my number one card, and you probably called it right now. If you haven't paused, go to the comment section, call it. And I trust you not to look at the card first and then call it. My number one is Savage Knuckleblade. Savage Knuckleblade would occasionally again see play when Theros was around. Doesn't see play now. Even in the Teamer Black decks, it doesn't see much play. And like, the deck is meant for this. This is a great initiative play. It's got a lot of different things it can do. It's a Swiss Army knife creature that is just a viable threat on the turn that you play it. So I don't really know why. It's probably because Teamer was not really, it was sort of the most shunned out of all of the wedges that, we were supposed to play with. Even when the Theros was in the format was really just beginning as far as, the 3-color decks go. But Teamer tried to be a thing so hard, and it just never really was. I feel bad for it. And so I'm going to go ahead and put Savage Knuckleblade as my number one because it's the most inexplicable card, that just didn't see play. It should have. I mean, the only explanation is that Teamer just was weak. And I'm sorry, Teamer players, I'm on your side. But Teamer was just weak compared to a lot of the other, very important color combinations in the format. And so this card really should have had, a lot of time to shine and be a really important card. But it just never, ever actually happened. And I don't get it. That's all the cards that I think really, really had a shot and just never really lived up to their potential. There's always a handful of cards like that at the end of every format. And really, if let me know how you felt about these, as far as, if you disagree with any of them, if you think that they're just completely terrible and should have never seen play, or if I missed cards that you think, were really good and never saw play, let me know. Something I thought about putting on here was like Empty the Pits, I think it was called. I really wanted that to see like a crazy combo deck play, but it never did. But anyway, just let me know what I missed. Let me know if any of these were terrible and should not have seen standard play, and there's a reason they didn't. All of that stuff. And I will see you guys later. I got a video coming up today that's part 2 of the What's Rotating video. It's, we did gold artifacts and lands last time. We're doing all 5 colors this time. So stay tuned for that. A lot of content coming out very, very soon here. So stick with us. I'm Deb from SBMTG. If you enjoyed the content, like, share, comment. And if you're new, subscribe. That's very important to me that you do that. I'm trying to get to 20K right now. And I'll see you guys later. I'm Dev. Thanks for watching, my wizards.